Sorry. Technical difficulties.
We are live now.
Yes, we are. Oh, I turned that down.
And this is going to be fun for you
Why is it
to...
doing this?
Mine did that the other day. I put do not disturb and it still was like ding, ding. It's not on the right thing. We're having issues, but here we are. We're live.
Okay, maybe that'll work.
Okay, my sweet woman. All you need to do now is hit record on Audacity.
Okay, I ruined everything.
She did not. It would not be a stream or a podcast episode without at least a little bit of difficulties. So here we are. Live, laugh, love. You know?
Okay. Let's do this thing. Okay.
Oh, Lord.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bayou Chronicles, which means we've all survived another week on this planet, rotating at thousands of miles an hour. Not to, give you a...
I don't know the speed or mileage, but...
Yeah, it's a lot. We're just literally barely clinging to Earth, just with it spinning in the universe around the sun. Yeah, that's enough to give you an existential crisis, but we are your host. I'm Crystal.
And I'm Bethany.
And before we get started, we would like to very respectfully remind everyone that it is Black History Month.
Yes.
So, while technically, me and Bethany, not even technically, literally, Bethany and I have really no place to speak on this matter, but we can give our best attempt at being the best allies possible. And I think for Bethany and I both, that means, we both realize that means that we cannot be better allies without constantly checking our own biases and our own just implicit racism that has been
and it's also
just put in us from the, just because of where we were born.
It's not our time to speak this month. Just listen. We just are bringing it up in the intro to bring light to it. So
we can only speak on the matter, and one way that we can do a little bit better is make sure that we are speaking out against any racism that we see. Again, like we said, checking every bias that we have, not being offended when someone says, hey, that's a little racist. Saying, hey, okay, you're right, if I can do a little better. We can read books by authors of people of color. We can go to their restaurants. We can watch movies. We can visit African American history museums. There's so much that we can do. So take some time this month to do that.
Exactly. Good evening. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Yes. Sadly, though, this happens on once a year, which I think is stupid because I think Black history is all year long. So just challenge any assumptions that you may have calculated in your mind. We all have unconscious biases, but it's what we do with them that really matters.
Exactly.
So, as usual, I will include links in our show notes for several organizations if anyone would like to donate, learn more, or just challenge your own implicit or unconscious biases that you have. Remember just to open your ears, open your heart, let others be heard. And if someone has something to say, instead of getting defensive, wonder and ask yourself why you're being defensive. So that's all we got for that. On this week's episode, though, we are streaming live over on Twitch. So if you are listening to this and you watch us on Twitch, you'll obviously know what's coming up. If you are watching us on Twitch and you're like, why are they not responding to me? It's because we're actually recording an episode and we just wanted you to tune in. But this week, Bethany is going to tell us a case that has technically been labeled as a suicide for nearly 17 years. So, yes. By the end of it, you'll hear just how powerful the military can be at covering up some of, and not some, but all of their demons. So I'm just gonna I'm just gonna pass it over to Bethany, and just let her take it from there.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and say this for the podcast. We actually just had a discussion in my kitchen not even 10 minutes ago. My husband, our executive assistant, Zachary, as we call him, we need a name for Tyler. I don't have a name for Tyler yet.
No, I don't know. We'll come up with something.
But we call Zach our executive assistant. He said he would like to start a podcast with Crystal's husband, Tyler, where they discuss our episodes and kind of, I feel like defame would be a good word. That's very dramatic. Debunk everything that we talk about. They just want to, whatever it is, they want to talk about the opposite. That sounds like husbands.
Mm-hmm.
That's rated R.
I don't get it.
I don't either. We're moving on. Okay, but from the title, obviously we know we are talking Fave and Fave 2. Oh, Lord. Jesus. From the title, you obviously know we're going to be talking about LaVena Johnson, who was a private first class in the United States Army. Yeah, it's a lot. I put military cover-up in the title for the Twitch stream. I know Crystal will more than likely copy that for Sunday's episode. But at the end of it, it's not going to be so dramatic. Right now, it seems like a very dramatic, I'm challenging the United States Army. I really am. A lot of people are. But yeah, we'll get into that. And you can thank TikTok, once again, for speaking these victims' names into existence. Like, I feel like me and Crystal talk about TikTok a lot on the podcast. So, shout us out whenever you want to do, some kind of sponsored ad TikTok, because mention you a lot. I've heard of LaVena Johnson's case. I think I asked Crystal, and I think she said she hadn't.
No, I had not heard of this.
She had not heard of this before. I've heard multiple podcasts about it. I've seen documentaries. I've heard people on like previous military bases that I personally live on talk about it. But me and Crystal like to do things a little bit differently on here. We talk less about what happened and more on the victim and their life and how, sometimes the story can be misconstrued. And it's funny because when I first was scrolling, my kids were actually watching the movie The Lorax. And that infamous line, I speak for the trees. Like, literally, the Lorax says that all throughout. And that's totally different thing. That's about capitalism, if you guys didn't know what the Lorax was about.
It is.
It's literally about capitalism in America and how we're just quickly, spend and destroy everything. We're talking about something different.
We'll do an episode on capitalism if you would like.
But we speak for people that don't quite fit the media and aren't shown as much of attention, especially when the military tries so hard to sweep more and more under a rug that never seems to get full. Like, you see what I'm putting down here? Do you feel what I'm getting at? They just sweep, and you think you would clearly, visibly be able to see, and you just can't. I have told Crystal before that a lot of the episodes I pick, she has a lot more planned out. Mine are very spur of the moment, and I normally send her like a text in the middle of the day and like, hey, I'm going to do this episode next week. And she's probably like, okay, all right.
Okay, look, so hold on. I got to pause and say, this is our writing style. Bethany is very like, hey, I'm going to do this case of this. And then all of a sudden she starts writing and she has it done like 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, a week before we record. Crystal, on the other hand, has them all planned out. And then the day we record, I'm still like typing. So,
I just get in these like moods where like if I get the topic, like I already told her like what my episode's gonna be about the end of the month, and it was literally because I saw another TikTok and went down this rabbit hole, and it was talking about multiple people, and I took one of the people from the TikTok and then found myself on YouTube and then found myself on Reddit, and I just sat at the computer and typed it out. and here we are. So sometimes if you feel the calling you, just go for it.
Yeah, I don't ever do that. I feel like I'd probably do better if you said, hey, you need to talk about this topic by this day. And I'd be like, okay. Because then I'm like, okay, I can just ramble. Now, writing it down means I have to, put the conscious effort into writing.
Oh, Lord. But let me tell you about what we're here to talk about today. Enough rambling. LaVena Johnson. The real LaVena, not the LaVena the military wants you to think or they really try hard to portray. LaVena Johnson was born July 27th, 1985. Just honestly...
Technically a millennial.
Yeah, I'm a little... slightly older than us. I mean, 10-ish years. A little bit more than that.
She's that's 7 years older than me.
Yeah.
So
no, not 10 years.
It'd be 9 years older than you.
Yeah. But she was so full of life, always smiling. She was, we say this for a lot of people that we talk about on the podcast, that she was just bright, airy, sunshine, good personality. But that's genuinely her. And we'll talk about it more because it makes it hard for her in the Army.
Look, I don't know anything about her, but I made the Instagram picture, announcement for Sunday to go up, and I just Googled her name to, find some pictures, and she looks so happy in every single picture.
Yeah.
She was so pretty.
She was an honor roll student all throughout. There was not a time she did not get honor roll. Or all A's throughout school. She was very intelligent. She could have gone to any college she wanted to. Yeah. And all LaVena wanted to do was to travel to California. I don't know why people I don't know. California has some kind of something in the air or the water that attracts people in certain aspects of life. And
I've never wanted to move to California.
Never in my life.
Absolutely
I
not.
have traveled there. I have, in fact, been to California. Don't think I want to go back.
Take that back. I would move to, the part of California that Tyler and I went to when we visited Nikki. That Northern California, mountains,
Lake Tahoe.
Stuff.
Lake
I would
Tahoe's
totally
nice.
move to that. I would totally move to that part of town.
But yeah, I've been to San Francisco. Not a fan. Not a fan. Not a fan. But yeah, she wanted to. So after she graduated high school, she wanted to go to California to go to college to eventually work in the film industry. Not as an actress. I know that's probably everybody's first thought. She was more of the technical side of it, the cameras, the production, stuff like that, filming, anything, technical. She was very much a tech person. But she didn't want to burden her parents with the responsibility. Yes, she had scholarships. Yes, she was very intelligent, but she was not going to be able to get a full ride. And she didn't want to burden her parents with college because her dad immediately was like, we'll pay for it. And she was very much an adult, which awesome for her. And she was like, I'm not going to let my parents, I'm going to figure out some other way for me to do this and accomplish my dreams without my parents paying for it, which I applaud her. But yeah, and just like her father, because he also had served, she enlisted in the United States Army, almost immediately after she graduated high school. I am including a lot of controversial lines in today's episodes in my notes. I even felt writing it that people were immediately going to cancel me. I could just feel other people's hate on my back as I was typing at my desk. I'm going to say some things about the military, and it's going to sound very hypocritical because me and Crystal are literally sitting on a military base as we record this.
Free speech.
Exactly. That is what I told my husband. Because he was like, yeah, you're allowed to say all this, whatever. Because I was like, should I say this?
You're allowed to say whatever you feel.
And then I was like, freedom of speech.
This is my thing. When it comes to freedom of speech, you have freedom of speech unless your words physically harm someone. In this case, or you know what I mean, not your words can't physically harm someone, but if your words cause someone to feel so bad about themselves that they kill themselves, or your words are so bad and so mean that you just cause someone to look down on themselves, that's when I'm just like, no, I'm going to censor you myself. However, when we're talking about a government organization, we have free speech against our government, and like, I can speak as much crap about the government as I want. So
shamefully speak.
Go for it.
So she enlisted into the United States Army. Go on this journey with us. And this is one of the things I said could be controversial. But we paint this picture for kids, especially teenagers from the ages of like 15 to 20, let's say. Just generalized age. That, you know, if you join the military, free college. I mean, free college, free healthcare, free housing, free everything. First off, it's not like that when you first join. I just want to I will be honest, like the first 2 paychecks that Zach got from the United States military, we did not even see. We were living off of mine because it went to uniform, boots, all that. Like, I just want, that's being 100% transparent with y'all.
It's like the military is a multi-level marketing company.
It's a pyramid scheme.
But instead of you
MLM.
putting your money into the scheme, you put your body.
It's an ML, yeah. But I wanted to include that because I'm not trying to say, yes, LaVena's dad was in the Army. He's a doctor. Mm-hmm. He's a doctor to this day. The Army was very good for him. Was it good for his daughter? No, we will get there. But I wanted to include this because she literally felt like the only way that she was gonna that's another talk about, you know, the Lorax capitalism, how hard it is. I guess we are talking about a little bit.
I guess we are talking about it.
She literally felt like the only way she would accomplish her dreams of going to college and becoming, you know, working in the film industry was if she went and basically signed her life away. That sounds dramatic, but that's literally what you do by joining the United States Army. And I just want to include that in my notes because, I mean, it is great to serve your country, and we're not the only country that has a military system. I mean, literally every country has, well, pretty much, you know. I just wanted to include that because
I feel like you could argue that ours takes the least amount of care of their workers.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So, just, you know.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this in another country, we're not hating on your military.
It's not all sunshines and butterflies, and you're going to have a lot of recruiters out there. I'm really getting off topic here, but I just wanted to include this. I just wanted to include this because she literally joined and went through all this just so she could go to film school in California.
That's really sucky.
So, yeah. It wasn't very long after LaVena joined the military, she was deployed to Iraq, of all places. She's the Army. That's not that out there. And I originally said this in my notes, but then I went back and did, you know, a little more journalism and a little investigation like I should have originally. So this is bad on me. But she'd actually been in for 2 years when she was deployed. So that was very traumatic. It wasn't, you know, like she left boot camp and then immediately went to Iraq. It was 2 years. So she was now Private First Class Johnson. That's just how you start out in the Army. It's just the name that they have for it. And being 19, because she joined when she was 17 and she is now 19, kind of just shy of turning 20. She was deployed from home and extremely homesick. She wrote letters almost daily, which is kind of unheard of. I mean, but this was 2005. Not a lot of people write letters anymore. I had to remind myself that when I was doing this research. I was like, letters?
I want to write a letter to somebody. Yeah. I used to have pen pals all over the world.
The last time I wrote a letter was the last week Zach was in basic training at boot camp, and this was back in 2013.
Really?
That's the last time I wrote a letter.
I guess it was probably around, well, no, it was probably a little before that, because I wasn't in college yet, I don't think, that I was still writing letters to my pen pals, but I literally had them all over the world, and we would like trade we'd send each other like small packages after a while. It was so much fun.
We just don't do that
I'm still
anymore.
friends. I'm like casual friends, acquaintances, like on Instagram with some of them now. It's fun.
But yeah, she wrote letters literally almost every day to her siblings. She had 3 older brothers and an older sister. She was the 5th. So yeah, 5 in total. She would write almost daily. Called her parents as much as she could. I mean, she is deployed to Iraq. she was really close to her parents. Not everybody is close to, like, their parents, and not everybody has both parents in their life, but, like, as much as she could write and talk to them, she would talk to her mom and dad on the phone.
That's sweet.
Which is really sweet. And her being a part of the communication squadron made it extremely easy for her to call. And I did ask our executive assistant, Zachary, because I was like, that's so, like, vague. Like, communications could be anything. But remember what she wanted to go to school for? It was, like, all the technical stuff. She does that just for the Army. So, like, if they need work on their phones, their computers, she's basically IT in a way. Like, that's not everybody in communication, but she mainly manned the phones and the radio. If anybody needed to get in contact from, like, out in the field or stuff like that, she was there.
Like, almost like a relay person, too.
Basically, like a phone operator is kind of. But yeah, so she was by a phone, so it made it really easy for her to call home, which she's one of the lucky ones because not a lot of people back then could, but thankfully she could. She'd handled all that. And I've watched, like I said in the beginning, several documentaries where her parents were actually interviewed. More so her dad. Her dad took on a lot of the burden of this. Mom, not so much. Mom couldn't handle it, which, I mean, rightfully so.
Do you feel like maybe the dad took on so much burden because he was in the military too?
I do, and I talk about it a little bit later, and I really kind of, like, dig into it. But yeah, kind of like he feels like he led her that way. Yeah, massively. But yeah, her letters, like I said, she was writing letters almost every day. She was always upbeat. Nothing was ever off. Like, they never got, like, a we should be worried kind of feeling. And she was the typical, very upbeat, optimistic self. And that's exactly how her mom described her in one of the interviews she did. She said that she was literally the most optimistic person she's ever met in her life. And that was literally her daughter. She was going through, normal stresses. She would kind of let them know, a little bit of depressive states. Don't we all? I mean, find me a person that doesn't. And they're lying. But yeah, she said tomorrow would always, that was her line she always gave. I'm having a rough day, but tomorrow's a new day. That was literally, if they were on the phone or writing a letter, that's how she would end it. Tomorrow's a new day. And that's such an amazing outlook to have on life. And I truly wish more people thought that way. And they don't. And I know this is where people are going to say, because before I get further into it, LaVena Johnson's death was ruled a suicide. Bum, bum, bum. I'm sorry if I just ruined this story and you didn't know. That's what we're going to be talking about. And I'm kind of busting your bubble, kind of letting you in on that if you've never heard of her story, because I want to talk on a few things before we get to that point. So sorry if you didn't know the story. I want to say, because this is probably where, like, oh, she's so happy, her family, said she was so upbeat. That doesn't sound like someone that would commit suicide. We're going to clarify for a minute. Those having suicidal thoughts or depressive episodes that may lead themselves to self-harm can convince even the closest person to them that they are okay. Okay? LaVena very well could have been having those thoughts. I mean, 100%. Do we know? No. The only person that will truly know that is LaVena herself, and we cannot speak to her, unfortunately. So I just wanted to add that. Whatever we're going to talk about, I'm not saying she very well could have committed suicide, but there's just way too much other things involved in evidence and pictures, and we are going to get there. But I wanted to just kind of, like, I guess, preface this at a little bit to the beginning, but also try to be a little unbiased, because I want everybody to form their own opinion. But I promise by the end of this, I would throw money down on this. I would legitimately throw money. I don't have very much, so don't be coming for a lot. But I would bet some money that by the end of this, you're going to be like, she did not kill herself. So, LaVena's deployment was starting to take a dark turn. This is where her letters and her phone calls were, I mean, that's probably dramatic, where she was still herself, but her parents could kind of feel something was up. And this case seriously makes me think about TikTok. I think about it a lot because female service members on my For You page, at least, I can't speak for everybody else, and some men really use the platform of TikTok to speak out about sexual assault, cover-ups, murders, everything like that they've personally experienced while serving in the United States military. And that's awesome for them. There's so many like female service members that I've personally seen on TikTok that have talked about being, sexually assaulted or whatever, and they still have to go to work every day with that person. And it's disgusting.
My question is, though, and maybe I'm just ignorant in this regard, is what does the government get from covering up the sexual assault? Like, what do they get from it?
We'll get there.
Okay.
And literally, and I told Crystal this, I feel like this was a good episode for me and the executive assistant because we talked a lot. Like, he actually helped me with this episode. Mm-hmm. He added some parts. We really sat down and kind of, I don't want to say connected, but he doesn't really talk about his job a lot with me. But, like, we really talked about the military and stuff people can go through and stuff. And there's some stuff that, yes, and we'll get there. And you will be angry.
Oh, more angry than I am at the current government?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Some stuff that I didn't know.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So, yeah. I don't know. But, yeah. So, shout out to all those women on TikTok. There's also, like, some retired women that have, like, come out and they're like, yeah, this happened to me and I was afraid to talk about it while I wasn't and now I'm retired, which... That's awesome for you guys. Keep speaking into existence. But at this point, LaVena had slowly mentioned to her mom, not her dad. She really didn't like to talk about the Army with her dad because she knew how her dad was. But her mom, moms you can kind of confide in more. And she had let it kind of slip that some of her NCOs, once again, I didn't do very...
Hold on, what's NCOs mean?
Non-commissioned officer.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that. I feel like people are gonna roast me and be like, it's a wife talking about things she doesn't know what she's talking about.
That feels like it's right, though. So.
It's basically somebody that's in the military that is your boss.
Okay.
That is higher than you. Like, Zach is an NCO. He's a boss.
Okay.
Okay, Tyler said yes, so thank you, Tyler. All right. But yeah, a couple of her NCOs, like I said, she's a private first class, so she's the lowest of the low that you can be in the Army. She's only been in 2 years, so she's a newbie.
She's a baby.
Low on the totem pole. She had kind of let it slide to her mom that a couple of her NCOs were picking on her. Aww. Saying some derogatory things, a lot of misogyny, a lot of stuff, we'll get to it. One of the things, and I included this because it literally made me sick to my stomach because sadly women in the military today still deal with this. They would call some of her and her female coworkers a soul because they were only half of a soldier a man could be. So you weren't a full soldier, you were a soul. So they would call them souls. Blech.
Man, I'm just telling y'all, every man on this planet is so freaking blessed to not have to share more than 35 seconds with me. Besides my husband. But yeah. I just pray for the day that I can just... I've actually put men in their place a lot. Have you... This is random and off topic, but have you been on the TikToks that's like, name one thing that you do to like put men in their place or whatever? Have you seen those? And it's like, and it's funny because I do every single one of them that people do. They're like, I don't move out of the way for a man. Baby, I don't move out of the way for a man. You can walk straight into me. And I have had so many men walk straight into me because they expect me to move. I will play chicken with you all day long.
I guess that's true because I will do anything for a woman. But you're dead. Yeah.
Yes, if you are a man, you can walk straight into me. I won't even say excuse me. I'm waiting for you to say it.
I do apologize for our male listeners and viewers, because I did notice on our Spotify analytics that our male viewers has gone up.
Okay, but look,
But
look,
we're talking about a specific type of man.
Yeah, it's a specific type of man. Like it's like if you're the type of man who gets offended by us saying that, then that's your problem. But if you're a man who hears us say it and be like, oh, I know men are nasty, men are just scum of the earth, then you're a good man. Mm-hmm. And this does not apply to you because you were raised right.
You acknowledge it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't like them.
But yeah, unfortunately, that's what, and it wasn't just LaVena. She kind of let her mom know that, like, all the female coworkers in her squadron, in the communication squadron, were being treated this way. Shame on y'all.
That is gross.
If it's one thing men have, it's the audacity.
Oh, 100%.
And y'all really do. But yeah.
They do the most.
People were just not taking her seriously. This is what I was talking about in the beginning. She's the nicest person on planet Earth, like, ever. She was sunshine. I feel like not enough podcasts, and I'm not calling them out, and I'm not saying they should have done better, but not a lot of other podcasts mentioned this before. But not only was LaVena a woman, but she was also a woman of color. She was black. So she was literally getting both sides. She was getting derogatory terms about her color, and she was also getting catcalled and, you know, called a soul and all this other misogynistic stuff for being a woman. So it was like, not a lot of people.
So they were just being douches.
Not
on purpose.
Racist, bigoted booty holes. That was a lot to say. But yeah, not a lot of people mentioned that. But it was like a lot. Anyways, we're moving on. I feel like me and Crystal are like on a man-hating.
We don't hate on men. We're married to two phenomenal men. But our men are the exception to the rule.
But this episode very much makes me hate anything with a penis. I don't know if I could say that, but okay.
I don't know if you can say that either, but...
But anyways, like I said, nobody was taking her seriously. And I get it. I really do. The military is supposed to be, like, the best of the best. That's, like, literally one of their, whatever you want to call it, taglines. But that doesn't mean that you can just be a jerk to everyone. And I feel like that's literally what women are screaming. We can coexist, and yet we all have our jobs. Like, why does it even have to be a gender thing? And I feel like that's all women want. You know? It's not that. It's the bare minimum. Okay? Like, I forget what that TikTok sound is right now, but it's like, for a rock or whatever. Have you not seen
what? Because how the TikTok are you on?
It's for women, and it's like, it was like, you know, he didn't call me fat today, and it was like, aren't you going to tell me thank you?
I have no idea what you're talking about. And the person's
like, for the bare minimum?
I have no idea what you're talking
I
about.
Apologize. But we talk about TikTok way too much.
I know, we should, like, sponsor us. We stopped asking Amazon Prime.
Okay, but at this point, she was kind of getting over it. And then this time she was like, Mom, I need to talk to Dad. So at this point, you know, it's gotten pretty serious. And she confided into her dad that one of the last phone calls, not the last one, that a general, pretty high up, came into the communications because she wanted to have a talk with him. I don't know what it is, but it's when you request to talk to the highest person in your squadron, and at that time was his general. I'll have to ask Zach. And he came to talk to her, and she voiced that, you know, nobody's taking her seriously. They weren't listening. They were calling her names. And he straight up said, you're not going to make it in the Army. You're too soft. You're too nice.
Since when does being in the Army mean that you have to be a tough person? Like, that to me has zero correlation between able to defend your country and being a tough person.
I mean, I can see it. They want people that can fight and that aren't afraid to back down.
Okay, but that means that you have to be. That means you have to be emotionally strong, or like not emotionally strong. Emotionally strong, not mentally strong.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I want you to be mentally strong, but you have to have an emotional guard up. Like, that makes no sense. I feel like I would rather have people who were empathetic, kind, willing to accept their emotions and deal with their emotions and talk through their emotions, leading, running, and fighting for my country, than people who would be like, oh, you're a woman?
Yeah. Well, basically, she had reached her limit, and she confided in Dad, and Dad was shocked. And he was like, one, a general should never be saying things like that
Oh,
to you.
absolutely
I
not.
agree. And I mean, he's been through it. He did his time. He served his 20 years. I mean, and now he's a doctor to this day. And this was kind of when her dad started getting a little, should she have gone into the army and followed my footsteps?
I'm just
angry. Her parents were starting to get worried. It was at this point they were starting to get worried, and they were like, this is not okay. And her dad was like, I'll give you a few days to handle it, reach out, seek some help. I'm really trying not to overstep because it's your career, not mine. But he was like, you need to tell somebody. You need to, find a friend, confide in like somebody at the base. The stuff that's going on is not okay. Find somebody else to talk to. And they got off that night, and she was like, okay, I will. It's all right. Tomorrow's a new day. That was literally her thing that she said, trying to be optimistic. But she, like, had already in her mind that she wasn't going to reach out. She wasn't going to. And we're about to talk, because Crystal's giving me that, like, I am just, why not, look?
Yes, because I am angry. I am literally pissed because this girl is doing nothing but showing strength and toughness. She's literally grit,
just doing her job.
And she's just being like, look, I deserve the basic, just general kindness that you give a person. And I'm not even getting
what
that.
Started this is during one of their work days. She was doing her work, and she was helping people on the phone and doing whatever and working on stuff. And some of her male coworkers were being rowdy and not working and kind of goofing off. And she just asked them, could they please be quiet?
Oh, heck no.
And get to work. And that's when they, like, didn't listen to her. And then that's when the general was like, nobody's going to take you seriously. Maybe you're not cut out for the army. And I was like, because she wanted to do her job?
Because she's trying to do her job that you're paying her to do?
I mean, that would piss me off.
Heck yeah, that'd piss me off.
I'm earning my paycheck.
So you're going to tell me that I'm not tough enough for the military because I asked people to be quiet and do their job so that I could do my job?
Because good and well, if she got up and she started yelling at them and was acting a fool, she'd be the crazy woman in the office.
Or if she was over there goofing off with a bunch of women and chit-chatting and giggling.
They'd be like, oh, of course the woman isn't doing her job.
Yeah.
But that's literally what started
absolutely not.
That's literally.
It is absolutely beyond me how any woman can be anti-feminist, because it just blows my mind.
There are some, though.
I know, but it blows my mind because of how just disgusting men can be towards women.
Okay, but it's the anger. Keep an eye on Crystal, y'all.
I'm just angry.
She's amped up here, and it's just gonna get worse.
I'm gonna start, like...
It's gonna get worse. This is why I said I may say some things controversial about the United States military, even though I live on one. But yeah, it's gonna keep getting wild. There's a big reason LaVena was becoming more quieter than usual, and why she heard her father telling her to reach out and she wasn't going to.
Because she knew it wasn't going to work.
No, some stuff had happened. A massive reason she was afraid to reach out and had become really distant and quiet at work. Nobody know the reason except for her and the base's doctor. Because LaVena was being treated for condyloma. I don't know if I said that right. And if you're like me and didn't know what condyloma is, it is a form of genital warts. Sorry, I can't talk. It's a strain of HPV. It mainly shows up on the, I'm trying to find a way to say this because I don't like saying the actual word, the booty hole. I hate saying anus. I'll just go ahead and say it. It normally shows up on the anus, but it can also be on, the vagina. And she had been sexually assaulted by a fellow male. She did not say who, and refused to give his name, and she was being treated for the genital warts by the doctor. So it happened. And then, like, a little bit after is when she noticed, like, my private parts aren't okay. It's burning. I have these bumps. So she went to the doctor. And that's when they were like, have you been sleeping with somebody or did something happen? And then she did disclose to the base doctor that she had been sexually assaulted. She just refused to give names. And she didn't tell anybody else on the base. Nobody else on the base, even after what's going to happen happens, did not know. Parents didn't even know. she kept it to herself. So I can see why she was quiet and was afraid to speak up when those dudes were really... no, but I don't think I've ever seen somebody bring up that theory. But no, I don't think the doctor was involved. But yeah, imagine being deployed and going through all of this literally alone.
I can't even imagine.
Like, she had a friend. Like, she had a battle buddy, if you will, is what they call it. Like, a girlfriend on the base, and she didn't even tell her.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. And then being afraid to say anything because all your bosses are men. They're male. And they very well could have been, you know, buddies with this person that assaulted her. We don't know. We literally do not know to this day.
It's disgusting to think out there
Yeah.
that somebody out there is some man in the military, most likely, is out there getting away with raping someone and lives every single day knowing that he forcefully took someone against their will, and he's just here, just
And I do want to
existing.
I do want to bring this up because we are talking about women on this episode. There's a lot of men on TikTok that have also brought up that they were also sexually assaulted while they were deployed. So I don't want y'all to think that this is only happening to females in the military or in life in general. Sexual assault also happens to males. So take that into consideration. There's just some really bad people out there. Yeah, this episode is really rough, and I just wanted to include that, because, we also hear you males out there, you men that go through this, and you are heard, but we're talking about LaVena right now. But yeah, instead of castrating, what if we just Ken dolled them? Like, nothing there. The men that, like,
Don't tempt me.
act, not all men, but
Don't
like the
tempt
men
me.
that, you know.
What's her name? Lorena Bobbitt, is that her name?
Oh God.
Start.
Zach brings that joke up all the time. Anytime we're fighting, don't you know, bob at me.
Yeah. But man, I'd be so tempted to do that to some of these men.
Yeah, men are sexual. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, a few days later, so they talked that night, and that's when she told her dad about, you know, the general kind of being mean to her and everything, and she was kind of, you know, so a couple days later, let's just say 2, they don't know exactly, she gave a phone call home, and it was drastically different. Her spirits were really up. She was really happy. She was like, Mom, she was talking to her mom at the time, I'm going to be home for Christmas. This was July, but their dates had changed for their deployment. Like, you're somewhat allowed to give your family, like, a guesstimate of days. And she was like, she was originally going to be home in, like, February. She's like, I'm going to be home in December. I'm going to be home in time for Christmas. Don't put the Christmas tree up. She was really excited. Like, there was still a good bit before Christmas, but she was just amped up. She's like, I'm going to do it. We're going to spend the holidays together. It's going to be so good. I haven't been home in 2 years. It's going to be awesome. So they were really, really happy. And then she kind of mentioned to her dad that, I think I'm done with the Army. She's like, I think I'm going to finish my time. I think I've done, you know, my country's due diligence. I can still go to college. I kind of just want to come home and be with friends and family. And, you know, her dad was like, okay, we support you. That's good. You know, maybe the Army is just, you know, not for you, which military,
It's valid.
you can join and do your time and be done. Like, there's nothing that says you have to do your 20 years. You can do it, and if it's not for you, get out. That's your thing. And that's where the phone call ended, and she was really happy, and she was like, you know, I'll call you guys in a couple of days. No sign of her not letting them know that she would not be calling. So they, you know, were like, okay, things are changing. Things are happening. And this next part is literally like every military movie ever. And if you're, like, don't know much about the military or don't have family members, you won't get this reference. But it's literally a family's worst nightmare. You see somebody pull up into your driveway, and they get out, and they're all dressed in their dress uniform. I don't know what it is for the Army and the Air Force. It's their dress blues. Well, here it is. Some Army men dressed up in their dress uniform showing up on the Johnson's front doorstep. And normally we know what that means. That means somebody died. Normally. Or somebody's severely injured and you got to go somewhere to see them. And they kind of knew. The Johnsons kind of had a feeling because they hadn't heard from her in 4 days. And that was not like her. Like I said, she worked in the communications. And if she was working, she was trying to, like, call home if it was the right time. Because she worked a weird time.
Mm-hmm.
And they were unfortunately informed that LaVena had passed away. It was devastating. Her mom was hysterical. They actually had to take her to another room. And her dad was just like... No, he was like
disbelief.
What? He was like, she died. What? He was like, a million questions, and he was like, she wasn't on the front line, and this was 2005. There was literally, like, no women on the front line. They were not, like, out there in battle.
Not till recent.
Yeah, and he was like, she worked in a building all day. She works in communications. She's not around. Did the base blow up? I feel like that was probably her dad's first thought. Did they get bombed? Like, what happened? How did she die? Even then, that's how you know that, like, they were not expecting any of this, because his thought was not, oh, she killed herself.
Yeah.
Somebody killed her. That's what her family was like. And it just wasn't adding up. And then this is when one of the soldiers that came mistakenly said the word suicide.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they were really going to tell her parents yet or ever. I don't know. But he said the word suicide. And Mr. Johnson was
number one, if I was informing someone that their child died, I wouldn't say suicide. Oh, she committed suicide. Oh, it was a suicide. No.
I would just say
wouldn't
she
say
passed
that. I'd be like,
away.
she passed away. We're not sure exactly what happened.
At this time, an autopsy hadn't performed. Nothing, no investigation.
Like, don't give out any more information than you
They
have.
were literally just notifying that she, in fact, was dead.
I'd be like, we don't know what's going on right now, but when we get more information, someone will reach out and let you know.
That was immediately suspicious to Mr. Johnson. He was like, I thought you said she passed away. Now she killed herself. You know, it just wasn't like... And then it was like, we don't even have any questions. How do I know? Like, he was instantly going into Papa Bear mode. He had a million questions. And they were, like, answering his question with a question.
Yeah.
That's the military, y'all.
Yeah.
That's literally the military. And he was like, no. And immediately they were like, she didn't kill herself. Our daughter did not kill herself. And I feel like... Even when that does happen, all parents
have that reaction.
Yeah.
Well, it's because it's hard for you to fathom. Like, if you're in a healthy mental state, I feel like it can be hard for you to ever imagine being that way. So it's just like, my child didn't do that.
Yeah. But like I said, he was in the Army himself. He literally served his time, and, you know, he was like, I know what the military can do. If I don't think my daughter didn't kill herself, he was like, something happened. He just automatically was like, something happened, or my daughter did something that she needed to be dealt with.
Yeah.
That's the correct way to say it without being just like off the wall. But yeah, he was like, no. And this is the story that several days later, because Mr. Johnson literally had to pry information out of these people. I really think they could have gone all these years never giving this family any answers, and that's just disgusting to say. Mm-hmm. And this is the story, and it's super lame, super vague, makes absolutely no sense. And still to this day, 17 years later, July will be 17 years actually, nobody takes responsibility. Literally nothing. Nobody, the Army, nobody. She got off work around 8 p.m. or 8:30, the time's not sure, at night. That was her shift. She worked the later shift. And then she was supposedly going to go to PT, which is just basically a type of mandatory working out. You either did it with your squadron, which is hers, is communications, or you just work out with yourself. You had to work out a certain amount of days a week, and then you had like a test at the end of each month that you have to make requirements. That's just all branches. So she got off at 8 and then was supposedly meeting some people to go work out. Mm-hmm. That's, very vague. But she never made it. She made it there. Like, she had 2 friends waiting to meet her because they were going to go for a run, because they had some kind of run. You have to do like 2.5 mile in 12 minutes. Mm-hmm. Something like, or I think that's right. That sounds excessive. I don't know. But I'm not running that.
I'm not running that.
But yeah, she never made it there, and she wasn't found in her room, and that's your first thought. Wouldn't, if you're gonna kill yourself.
if you're really in those emotions.
I was reading too much into this. I was like, say you're going to commit suicide. Wouldn't you do it like in your bed, in your bathroom, in your closet?
I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't want to personally think about that. But yeah, she wasn't found. She was found in a random room. She was actually found in a contractor's tent, not too far from the defect. For those of you that don't know military lingo, that is literally the dining hall, the chow hall. Military has 5 million ways to say the place that you go and eat at, which is a cafeteria. And I don't know why they don't just call it that. But for this base, it was the defect because it was a mix of Army and Air Force people. But yeah, just a random tit. Yeah.
Why was she in this tent?
I don't know, but when the people that found her, there was blood everywhere. There was some splatter. There was some pool of blood. It was just kind of all throughout. It's a really weird, yeah, I don't know. Her body was found laying on the ground next to a cot inside of a tent that nobody was staying in, and they were currently using it as a break area for like people to smoke and stuff. But she had allegedly shot herself with an M16. If you don't know what that is, it's pretty a standard issued weapon in the military. Kind of like an M4. If you don't know what that is either, I don't know what else I could describe for you to know. You just have to Google it. M16. This is a plausible gun. I mean, the way and whatever, you could very well shoot yourself. But just stay with me, y'all. Like, you're gonna be like, are you kidding me? The photo shown to Mr. Johnson screams staged crime scene, and I'm not kidding. Staged murder scene. What even worse is Dr. Johnson, or Mr. Johnson, whichever you would prefer to call him, received most of this information after the Army did their autopsy report.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was asking, can I see my daughter? Can I see pictures? Can I see where she was? I want to see this. And it was like they kept putting it off. And then they were like, okay, we're finished the autopsy. And he was like, autopsy? I wanted to see stuff first. I wanted to see her. Now you've cut her open and done all this, and I didn't even get to see her. So that was also kind of shady to me. But the scene really speaks for itself. Even the way her body is laying doesn't look like someone that just shot yourself. And I can't say, I mean, I don't know. You don't know which way or whatever. And we can just go by like past people and, you know, stuff like that. But the way her body was, first off, she was right-handed. The gun was in her left hand facing her left shoulder, and she had shot the left side of her face, kind of like the head.
So she'd had to go like this.
Yeah, but she was right-handed. And statistically, y'all, women do not shoot themselves and commit suicide. The number one is either poison or drowning. I don't know why. I would not want to.
Oh, I would hate to drown.
But normally, women poison ourselves. We take pills.
I would 100% like overdose on some pills.
Statistically, and that's just statistics. Statistically, geez, how many times am I going to say that one sentence? Men shoot themselves. So that was also a red flag to me. I know that just because of endless hours of crime shows, if we're being honest. Don't let you think that I'm just super smart and know that. And I personally researched these photos. I went through the 45-page Army autopsy. It was really hard to read, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more, and it was just really weird. It's not a small gun, but it's also not big, because I also asked Zach that, because she was 5'2" and about 130-ish pounds, so she was kind of little. But Zach said if she had killed herself, it wouldn't have been, I mean, she could.
Oh, it's like a rifle.
Yeah, it's like a rifle. You could.
How would she do, like, if she shot herself in the temple?
A little bit further back, like backish,
like back here,
backish.
But still, how would she?
And that's not her dominant hand. She was right-handed, so that's also weird. If you're gonna shoot yourself, you do it with your dominant hand. That's just, I mean, I don't know, but yeah, that's just me, and that's just me looking over the crime scene photos. That's not even me reading any of the other stuff that we're about to talk about. That's just me looking over how she was found. So we're gonna talk about Yeah, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
So unloaded, it weighs 7 pounds.
Yeah.
So chances are it was loaded because she obviously had to shoot herself. So she had to hold, let's say, a 10-pound weapon with her non-dominant hand far enough back that she can squeeze the trigger but also shoot. This sounds like Martha Morgan all over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
These.
Yeah, it just wasn't. And her dad was in the Army. He worked with these weapons. He worked with several other weapons. He was a doctor. He dealt with bullet holes and bullet. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Her dad,
Your dominant hand holding the gun, and you shooting yourself.
We're gonna post. I'm gonna show Crystal. You guys listening on the podcast can't see us, but I will. No, we can't post a picture. I don't want to post that picture of her for our thing, but. Just say you're laying flat on the ground.
I'm going to Google it.
You're laying flat on the ground. You are right hand dominant. The gun is in your left hand. Your hand is placed over your forehead, and the gun is cradled over your left shoulder. If you Google it at your own discretion, to me, it would look like somebody shot her, laid her body on the ground, and then placed the gun over her left shoulder, which to me tells me the person that shot her was in fact left-handed themselves. That's just process of elimination. I do things with my left hand, but originally, thanks to childhood trauma and a really bad teacher, I was originally left-handed, but I would get my hand slapped in school if I wrote with it, because apparently if you write with your left hand, you're the devil. So now I'm right-handed. So, fun fact for that, childhood trauma. And that's a real story. It was a great Catholic school. Enjoyed it very much. Now to the autopsy report. Her autopsy report is a joke. It was done by the Army. It has been looked over several times, and I think those people that looked it over were also paid a hefty money to say it was okay. A lot is redacted. I mean, that's natural. It's the U.S. Army. They can't give out names or locations and stuff, so that wasn't that odd to me. It did take it a lot longer to look through. I literally looked through every page of this, you guys, and you can go and look at it as well because of the Freedoms Act or whatever it is. You can look at all this public information. But yeah, there was candy wrappers found next to her body. There was cigarette butts. LaVena, as much as I know and her family knows, did not smoke, so it could have been someone else. And there was also a screen missing from a nearby window. So that, reading that lets me know, did somebody climb in the window to snatch her into the tent, or they were waiting in there? I don't know. Or did they just take that screen out because they were smoking? It could be 5 million different things. And there was also a fire, which they checked the tent to begin with. There was some kind of the people at the DFAC, like we were talking about. There was people at the nearby hall leaving from getting dinner, and they were walking closer to the tent, and they smelled smoke, and that's originally why they went into the tent. We'll get there. It looks like, so the people that found her, one was Air Force and one was Army. There was a senior airman. He is the Air Force One. That's the second rank in the Air Force. And then the other one that found her was a staff sergeant in the Army, which is an E6. Not majorly high up, but I mean, if you're high up and you have your hands in the right pockets, he very well could have had something to do with it. Because normally the person that finds a body, 7 out of 10 times did something to the body, but we don't know. Supposedly, because in the photos, if you look them up, the gun is not on her body. It is you looked it up, right?
Yes.
The gun is across the room on the other side
of the cot.
Of the cot.
Yeah.
But that is because the people that found her moved it to check her pulse.
And I can see that, like, if you go over, you don't want them to, like, be faking and then to, like, shoot you. I feel like it was more of, like,
I
a
can, but
procedure thing.
But it's always been, under my influence that when you go onto a scene like that, you don't move anything.
Yeah.
Until, like, medics or, like, the police or in this instance, it would be security forces. So that was a little strange for me. But he was also senior airman, so he was new, and maybe he didn't know what to do. And maybe it was his first dead body that he saw, so he was just freaking out.
Now, I mean, I feel like I probably wouldn't have moved it that far, but I feel like on my way to check them just for my safety, since there is a gun there, I probably would have kicked it with my foot out of the way of, like, that person's reach, because I don't know what's happening. But I don't feel like I would have moved it that far.
I'm just including that because it is weird when you're looking at it. You're going to be like, well, how did she shoot herself? The gun's halfway across the room. Originally, it was laying across her left shoulder, like diagonally. And then her hand is over her forehead. Mm-hmm. But that's originally where it was. It was on her. But I just want to include that. That's not like a conspiracy. He admits in a later interview that he did, in fact, move it. But yada, yada, yada. So let's get down to the details. If LaVena got off at 8 p.m. or 8:30 that night, why didn't they allegedly? Because they did say that as they were walking and smelled the smoke is when they heard a gunshot. Okay. But if she got off work at 8 or 8:30, why didn't they hear this gunshot until 1:30 in the morning? Because she was supposed to meet her friends, remember, to do PT, and they were, like, going all around the base looking for her. They went to her room, they went to the communications building, they went to the gym, and they couldn't find her. They didn't know that she was in this tent. So, like, where are those, like, 4 or 5 hours unaccounted for? Was she just in that tent for 4 or 5 hours?
Just
chilling, thinking about it? Possibly. I'm not saying she didn't. Okay, so there wasn't, like, I don't know. There was several people interviewed. There's actually a lot in their report, but I feel like a lot of it was fake and it was just fill in because I don't know. It just gave me the vibe of we didn't interview enough people to let me write some stuff in and redact half of it, that kind of thing. But yeah, almost every person interviewed said LaVena was a very happy person, just like her family said. Always nice to be around, always good to work with. Most of these were female coworkers. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. The dudes probably didn't have that nice of stuff to say. A fellow coworker, this is how we know the timeline, said that she had plans with her and another male coworker to meet at the gym, and they were going to run to get ready for their future PT test they had later that week. So that's, that gives us a timeline. She wasn't supposed to meet them. Why would she agree that very night to meet them for a PT test practice? And in the picture, she has her PT gear on. She even has her reflective belt on, which you have to wear.
Yeah.
You have to wear that if you are outside at night so people don't, like, run you over or stuff. It's pretty dark outside. Yes, if you watch Bailey Sarian, she did a 2-hour YouTube video on this as well, and she thinks exactly what I think. I did watch it. It was a good video.
I've never seen a single episode of her, so I have
she
no
was
idea.
so into the story that she forgot to finish her makeup look. That's how much it was. Like, she just stopped doing her makeup and was just talking about it. So I felt like that was very sweet, because that's her whole thing. Like, she does makeup while she talks about it. She's like, I didn't even put lipstick on. But, yeah. But if she's going through all that, has her PT gear on, why is she going to a random tent to commit suicide?
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense. And I know suicide can be random. I mean, we do. Like, some people just wake up in the morning or get home from work and they just, unfortunately, decide to end their lives. And that's just what happens. But obviously, after a death, there are stuff, that happens. And obviously, after you die, they pack all your belongings up and they mail it to your family, like wherever it be. This point, her being deployed. She had a journal. And a lot of people in their interviews mentioned always seeing her with a journal. And when her parents got her stuff back, a third of her journal was ripped out.
That's not suspicious at all. That's not suspicious.
And here's another kicker, because her dad wanted to know more about the autopsy, obviously. There was insufficient amounts of GSR. If you don't know what GSR, that's gunshot residue. There was literally none on LaVena's hands.
Well, duh,
and
but
it
she didn't
says
shoot
that.
herself.
It literally says that in her autopsy, insufficient amount or no clear amount of GSR on victims' hands. Yeah. And there's literally, you can go, like I said, on Google and read the entire 45, however many pages I read, autopsy. There's like 2 pages of reasons why you might not have GSR on you or your hands when you shoot yourself. It was like they were really
trying to justify.
What
were their reasonings?
Soiled hands, if your hands are dirty, if you're wet, if there's moisture around you, if you're not in a confined area. She was in a freaking tent. How confined can you be? Like, the list goes on, and I'm like, they're really trying really hard
to justify this.
Not having actual, like, she was literally shot. And that means the gun wasn't even close enough, because sometimes if the gun is really close to you, your clothing will have it, even if you didn't shoot yourself. There was none on her. Insufficient amount for everything. Body, hands.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Anyways, one more thing about her autopsy. There was several people interviewed, and the staff sergeant, remember I said a senior airman and a staff sergeant found her body. They had them draw the crime scene. And all the other ones were very vague. Like, it was mainly just her body and the gun and the cot. He drew the candy wrappers. He drew the cigarette butts. He drew the window screen. He drew everything in the room.
Does he have, like, a photographic memory?
But I was like, if you committed the crime, wouldn't you know where everything is? But then that's when Zachary came in and made me erase half my notes, because he was like, he's a staff sergeant. He's an E6. He's probably been in like 12, 15 years. He's probably seen a lot of crime scenes.
Yeah.
And I was like, get out of here.
And I'm thinking that too, but
Yeah.
I'm also thinking, like, he might just have, like, a really good memory.
But I was like, you know what? If I killed somebody, I'd probably remember everything in the room. But then,
I feel like if I killed someone, I would not remember anything, because I'd be freaking out that I actually murdered someone, and now I had to figure out how I was going to hide it.
We're almost done. I promise this won't be like an extremely... I knew this episode was going to be kind of longish, but officially the Army declared it a suicide due to depression from deployed-related stress and because she broke up with her boyfriend back home.
Oh,
Sorry
God.
if I didn't let you guys know, but, like, they weren't really dating. They had broken up, like, basically as soon as she got there, and they had only been dating a few months. So I didn't think it was that important.
That's not a...
And I don't
She's
really...
not heartbroken about that.
Her friends even were interviewed and were like, yeah, she was upset, but she wasn't, like, you know, torn up about it. Her parents just still did not believe that. Mr. Johnson knew when LaVena made her way back to Missouri, because she was from Missouri, so they shipped her body back. He'd be able to investigate. You know, he wanted to look at her body. He wanted to look at the autopsy. He really wanted to, like, just look at everything.
Yeah.
He just wanted to be with his daughter, obviously see her again, and then just examine her, which is really tough for a dad to even have to do. But LaVena had burn marks all across her back. Remember that fire?
Yeah.
Well, there's a barrel inside of the tent that was on fire, and that's what they smelled, and then that's when they heard the gunshot. But yeah, she had burn marks all over her back and her butt. Her PT gear was not burnt, so this is what me and Zach talked about. She had to have been naked, burned, clothes put back on, and then shot.
Yeah.
Because would her clothing not be burnt?
Yeah.
Yeah, literally she had burn marks all across her back, like fresh, like they happened the night she died.
Can you receive burns? Like, could you, like, if you're standing by something really hot, can you get burned through your clothes? That your clothes not, like,
it would not burn your skin. It would burn it would go through the clothing as well. Her skin was burnt,
like 3rd degree,
like noticeably burnt. Yes. And she also had, this is going to get a little intense. here, she had damage to her vagina and anus. And let me talk about that. I've already, not heat burns, 100% not heat burns. Like actual, like, flesh had been over an open fire. Extended period of, yeah.
Oh my God.
And there was no damage to the clothing, which lets me know that she either had her shirt pulled up, pants pulled down, or was naked. I mean, there are 4 to 5 hours unaccounted for from the time that she left and the time she supposedly they heard the gunshot. And I forgot what it's called, but when you're out in the field, when you're deployed, or even here in the States, they have this chemical that if you get shot or you get cut, they shoot it in you. Zach carries it in his med pack, and it puts this stuff, kind of like glue, all through your wound to stop the bleeding.
Okay.
And then they go in and surgically remove it. Well, her vagina had been cut and her anus had been cut, and then that stuff had been put inside of her.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And her dad said they would not do that during an autopsy. Like, yes, after you die, they do plug you up. I'm sorry if that's gross, but this is not that type of plug. It's a metal plug that they put in us. Yeah, sorry if you didn't know that. But yeah, that chemical was known, and her doctor not her doctor, dear Lord. Her dad obviously knew that because he's a legit doctor for the U.S. Army, or he was. Yeah, and there were bruises all over her body. There was bruises on her chest. There were bruises on her face. They had to cover it up with makeup because she did, in fact, have an open casket funeral. So, yeah, all of that was going on. And no rape kit, like I said, was ever performed on LaVena. At that point, they wouldn't have been able to because that stuff was literally all inside of her vagina. So, that's just... Think about that. Somebody was obviously trying to cover up some DNA. Because why else? And another weird thing that her dad said was really... Because he wanted to get her hands. Because he was like, my daughter had to put up a fight. He wanted to get, like, DNA under her fingernails or her service gloves. Because she was put in her dress uniform for her funeral, obviously. Everybody in the military is. Her gloves, her white service gloves, were glued to her hands. Could not get them off.
Why would they do that?
Father did not know. Her dad did not know. So they were not able to get any DNA. They could not get these gloves off. And he just really did not want to do any more damage to his daughter. So, yeah. Yeah. To this day, Mr. Johnson has never let his wife see any of the crime scene photos or the autopsy photos, because autopsy photos are pretty rough too.
Yeah.
He has only allowed himself to. He does not let his 4 sons or his other daughter look at him.
I know.
He has taken that burden on himself. That's really sad. I feel like he blames himself because he was in the army and LaVena joined the army because he did, and, following footsteps, and then look how the army treated his daughter. So he does not let any of them, and most of the interviews, like I said, he does himself, which is the world. I hope Mr. Johnson doesn't feel bad because the world really needs more dads like him out there. Like, he still to this day, 2022, 17 years later in July, speaks his daughter's name into existence every day and how corrupt the United States military is. Also, another thing that I really want to talk about is a possible theory, and you can thank our executive assistant, Staff Sergeant Brooks, for this one. He's going to be really mad if he's listening to this episode right now, and he will. He hates when I call him that. But yeah.
Wait, Staff Sergeant Brooks or Executive Assistant
Staff Sergeant Brooks. He does not like his... Yeah, anyways. Moving on. Executive Assistant is pretty 100% confident LaVena was killed by a contractor. If you don't know what a contractor is, most of them are retired military. Most of them are just people that are brought in by the U.S. military to do illegal stuff for them that people in the military cannot. You get what I'm putting down?
Yeah.
Most of them are retired military that already know their way around and stuff like that. He is pretty sure that a contractor killed LaVena, and we'll get to it. And he really, He came with some research himself. Stay with me. And I was like, that's so random. I've literally never seen any of the other podcasts or even her father or anybody else in the military bring this up. So I was like, what? Honestly, y'all should have saw my face when he was telling me. I was like, I wasn't even thinking that. You know, people were rude to her, and she did go through all that drama. And they basically, you know, told her to get out. However, Zach brought up some really interesting conclusions. At every base, and I did know this part, but I wasn't thinking like that. At every base, even when deployed, every single bullet, and even police departments do this, well, air quote, they do this. Mm-hmm. Every bullet has to be accounted for at the end of each day. Mm-hmm. So if you shot a gun or you shot somebody, or, you know, even people went out and snipers and stuff like that, that bullet has to be accounted for. Daily record. The only people, this is what Zach said, so if he's wrong, yell at him. The only people that don't have to keep records of what guns they shot, what bullets they use, are contractors on bases. So
because they don't technically work for the government. They
are contractors. They're independent contractors. They work for themselves, paid by the military. That's a way to get around legal stuff, y'all. Just saying. Mr. Johnson is confident his daughter wasn't shot with an M16. Like I said, he's a doctor. Who's going to know about bullet wounds? Ow. A freaking doctor. Anyways. He was like, my daughter was not shot. He went and looked at the bullet wound, which is terrible. He had to do that. He was like, she was not shot with an M16. She was shot with a 9 caliber bullet, which is a pistol, y'all, if y'all don't know that. Different bullet wound completely, not massively, but it is going to be different. And any contractor would have one. I mean, anybody on the base would have that. But if you don't have to keep a record of what bullets you use, wouldn't it make it easier to shoot people? And then just throw an M16 on somebody and be like, oh, she shot herself? Anyways, so this is where Zach started telling me, and we really started talking about, and he showed me some YouTube videos that I really wish I had never seen in my life. And I can't get that 2 minutes back, of black water contractors. Google, YouTube. I've already told Crystal. She will probably look it up because she's a psychopath.
Look, I'm a weirdo that has seen like every one of those horrible videos that people tell you not to look at. I have seen them.
Yeah, well, these people are called black water contractors. They were one of the first contracts for the U.S. military. I think Zach said they started in 2003. So this is 2005. So they'd be pretty new at this point. And they were pretty amped up and rampant and psychopaths. I'm just going to say that. They were some pretty rough people. They're horrible, honestly. Be mad at me if you will. The videos are terrible. The contractors were rough. Most of them being retired Marines. We know Marines do not have the best history, and that's just facts. There's some countries and places that literally do not want Marines. When we were stationed on Guam, the people there rioted. They were okay with the Air Force being there. They were okay with the Navy being there. They did not want Marines to come there because Marines have a really bad history, and I'll tell you why. Our executive assistant, Zachary, is confident a contractor at the base was more than likely responsible for Lena's attack, like I said, 2 weeks prior. He not only thinks a contractor killed her, but he's pretty confident that he's the one that sexually assaulted her 2 weeks. And that's just a given. Whoever did it is obviously the one that sexually assaulted her to begin with. But yeah, I'm telling y'all, if y'all Google this, you really have to.
Oh, I just googled the whole Blackwater the massacre that they did.
Yeah.
Did you know?
Yeah.
Did you know? Here we go. Let's hate the government today, guys. They killed 17 civilians. Civilians. They just started shooting.
Yeah.
Because there was a car bomb, and then they took place, and then they just started shooting at 17 civilians. And guess what? In 2020, in December, I guess nobody was paying attention because I sure wasn't. Donald Trump pardoned them.
Yeah, I knew about that. I saw it on the news.
That's gross.
Yeah.
That's gross.
But yeah, these people, these contractors were literally known for going into the nearby villages, towns, wherever by the bases, and raping women and children. Let that sink in for a minute. What makes you think they weren't also doing this to the female service women on the base that they were literally staying at? Just let that sink. And that's not me speculating. That's not just me talking out my booty or whatever you want me to say on here, PG like. Marines do have history of going into these villages while deployed and raping women. So do contractors. So does every branch. I'm not trying to single out any branch in particular during this whole thing. But literally since Vietnam, there's reports of this happening. So I didn't think of this. So I'm glad that I really sat down with Zach and he helped me with this episode because I had a lot of questions, y'all. There's a lot of stuff I didn't understand. I'm not in the military. I just lived the lifestyle the past, decade. So I'm glad that I sat down and I showed Zach the crime scene photo and I told him where she was found. And he immediately was like, she was killed by a contractor. She was found in a contractor tent.
Mm-hmm.
Where they stay. Where they have breaks. I hadn't considered it. I hadn't even, like I said, saw anybody bring it up. These are independent contractors way outside of U.S. jurisdiction. Living la vida loca, doing whatever they want, going into the villages, raping women and children, killing people, doing whatever they want. There's literally videos on YouTube of them just driving through the city and just shooting into random cars. Is it right? Like, are those people also doing bad stuff to America? Yes. But I don't agree with both sides. So I'm not signaling out us Americans. But who's to say they aren't doing bad stuff to your fellow military members on the bases? They are. These are the people speaking out on TikTok about being sexually assaulted. And Zach brought up, because actually Crystal asked this question, what is the military, what is going to make the military cover up something like this? These contractors are jumbled up together on a contract paid by the U.S. government, by our tax dollars, by the U.S. military.
I hate this
and
country.
Zach said one of the contracts was $600 million.
I hate this country. I hate this country. I hate this country.
So Zach said it this way, and he felt bad saying it, and I felt bad for thinking it. But he was like, do you think the military is going to out that one person, that one death, for $600 million? Because if they out that person, that contract has to be cut, and they lose their money.
And
And I was like, you're right.
Then they risk losing that part of the military budget.
And I was like, but LaVena's life is worth way more to me.
Oh, 100%.
Way more to her family. Way more than whatever the heck these people are out there doing. Good for them.
In a war that we had no business being in the first place.
These people literally got pardoned by a president. And I'm not trying to get political on here, and Crystal did mention it. Yes, President, or whatever you want to call him, he's just now Donald Trump, pardoned all these people that were originally arrested.
Can I read what was said when he pardoned them? He pardoned them because the White House statement, not him directly, says that these men had a long history of service to the nation, and that they were veterans of the U.S. Armed Forces. And that's part of the reason why that we should.
Yeah, like I said, most of these contractors had prior military experiences, but
and that makes people good, I guess. I guess because if you are a U.S. veteran, you're a good person. That's the correlation that we're trying to reach here. Because
yeah, and we talked about this, and you're right. There's bad people in every country, but it really just brings to light how bad we are here. Mm-hmm. Our country, our own country. And me and me and Zach talked about it, and he was like, a lot of these people have God complexes. They were in the military, and there was laws. You can't just go out. You have to be under order to shoot people. When they go on these missions, you have to be under order, and that's why we have laws. But he said when these contractors come in, most of them are retired, got, discharged or whatever. They become contractors, so they can go back to these countries where war is happening or where people out in the field, and they can shoot people without, getting in trouble. And that's what it comes down to. Is that right? I don't think so. That's up for your, but in this instance, people are being sexually assaulted multiple times. Their bodies are being burnt. Their vaginas are being cut open to get DNA out and then shoved with chemicals. And then a gun is thrown over them and they're shot in the back of the head, and it's suicide. Because they have no laws. Because they're contractors out in the Middle East living, doing whatever. Getting paid a lot of money. I know how much contractors made. My own husband was offered a contractor job a few years ago if he got out of the military. And it was a lot of money. We could have built a house. We could have gotten new vehicles. We could have done whatever. And would Zach have done that? No. I mean, he would have been a contractor. He thinks about it, but he's not going to go over there. I know my husband. He's not going to go over there and do what these people are. But that's what a lot of these people do. They get paid a lot of money to do this stuff. So I'm really glad that Zach.
Oh, they look like douche canoes. They look like they have tiny penises and need to use big guns because they have tiny penises and don't know how to please a woman, and probably have been with a lot of women, but because they don't know how to hold one down. Look at them. Mm-hmm. They look like douches.
But I really didn't want this to turn into like the military is all bad, because there's not. I know I personally have a lot of good friends. A lot of good has happened because of the military. A lot of good has happened for me personally. It's, what my husband does for a living. It's contributed to us and our well-being and everything, and that's not what I wanted this episode to be about. But we were talking about LaVena Johnson's death covered up by the U.S. Army, and there are bad things out there. And people need to speak up, and we need to stop being greedy and caring about money. And, if somebody kills somebody and sexually assaults them, they need to serve their time.
Or at least give it at least investigate to the fullest ability to figure out what happened before you just up and say, no, it's a suicide.
Not have a burnt body with a cut vagina and bruises and gloves glued to your hand and say she shot herself in the head because her boyfriend broke up with her. Just come out and say, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, somebody was on our base that we had no control over. They had a mental breakdown.
Beat her and raped her and killed her.
We will no longer be working with this individual.
That's all they had to do.
That's literally all. And that
we can prosecute this one individual.
They can't, though, because then they lose the contract with all the contractors. And that's what Zach was saying. The military is not willing to give one person up for all of them.
These people are just disgusting. Disgusting.
I don't want to make this episode any longer. It's really long. I'm sorry, guys. You're probably going to have to, listen to this in 2 days. So take Sunday and Monday to listen to this. Or listen to the whole thing. Podcast links never have bothered me. I know some people like 30-minute ones and 20-minute ones. But all we can do is keep speaking, LaVena's name. We can keep talking about it. Look how many people are still talking about her today on TikTok, a new social platform. Mm-hmm. Social platforms weren't even a thing in 2005. And still we have people 17 years later talking about her. And that's awesome. And that's really all that her father really wants. I think the last time he did an interview was on a talk show in 2014. So that was kind of a bit ago. Yeah. Not too long ago. What, 9 years ago? Or 8 years, something like that. I don't know, math's hard. But yeah, keep posting on social media like you're doing. Keep talking, not just LaVena, anybody. Like these women I said, talk on TikTok and Instagram about their own,
struggles that women of color are dealing with every day in the military or even in the civilian life. You can work in an office, you can be a doctor, you can be a teacher, whoever, and you're dealing with these struggles. Just keep talking about it, getting the word out. The more we pressure these people, the more they have to listen to us, they have to change, and they have to stop putting price tags on stuff and, speak for the trees. Because capitalism, that $600 million contract was really worth this one person's life. So
Oh, absolutely not.
that's what they think. That's not what I'm saying. But yeah, that is all that we have.
Okay, that was a
for
rough
today.
one. So I
It was
say that we both say or tell everybody something really cute or good or happy. Just to uplift the spirits.
I have something uplifting for you guys.
Okay.
Uplifting for, if you want to talk about it, or email.
Which one?
Dee Dee.
Sure, go for it.
If you're, shout out to Dee Dee, if you're listening. Me and Crystal have freaking made it, y'all. We are famous. Well, we feel like we're famous. We are. Shreveport just got 2 new celebrities. All right. Our Becky Gary episode, the one Crystal has been doing, she's been awesome. She did all the episode, all the research, talking to everybody. She's been calling people. I cannot call people on the phone.
I've been out of my comfort zone, y'all.
She's been a rock star, and we got an email from a listener. Legitimately from a listener. So Dee Dee, shout out if you're listening. She said she's our #1 fan. I didn't think anybody would ever say that besides our family members. Yeah, she gave us some new, I guess you'd say info.
Yeah, I'd say info.
Some side stuff. We're not gonna completely talk about it yet because we might have to do a whole new series. I don't even know.
I don't know. Might do a follow-up episode with just some info, but some of it, I guess I'll just say it like this. Some of it is just info that we're not ready to put out there into the universe yet. Like, we know it. The family knows it. Dee Dee, when she messaged us, she was like, y'all did a really good job of saying what you really couldn't say.
She said we were thorough, and we really spoke for Becky, and that was just the feeling of... I will just take y'all down how it happened for us. I was in the kitchen doing dishes, and I don't know, something was like, check the emails. I was like, I haven't checked it in probably a week, and I know Crystal's been really busy at work this week, so let me check it. And we had like 3 important emails.
Yes.
A lot happened the past couple of days, and I was
still
like,
blowing up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like this email, another email about something we can't talk about yet.
Yeah.
Like, just like what happened?
Yeah,
we had to mark the day down as like
we
a
did.
big day.
February 2nd was a big day for us, or was it first? February 1st? February 2nd?
It was yesterday. This day before yesterday. It was the first.
The first, February 1st.
Yes, because I was like, is this like an early April Fool's?
I don't know, but it was a really good day for us. Yeah, we jumped like 10 subscribers on YouTube in like 2 days. I also messaged Crystal. I was like, have you checked the YouTube? Because
like, it's crazy.
I was like, the last time I checked it, that was not the number. And then I checked it again later that day, and it went up like 5 more. And I was like, what is happening? And then we've sold a bunch of merch the past couple of days. Like, I literally had to do inventory.
Yeah, we're like getting low.
We're low.
So what did we say? We only have like a few small. How many?
We have 1 more small left. If y'all are interested, I'm actually wearing one. I know if you're listening, you can't see it, so sorry. It is posted on our Instagram, Bayou_Chronicles. We only have 1 small left. We completely sold out of the 2Xs.
We need to get more of those.
I think that was like the first size that we sold, honestly. We are still pretty good on extra large and large.
Yeah, we have some mediums. Looks like we have a good bit of mediums.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a medium and you want a shirt, hit us up.
But that is the, ending this episode on a lighter note, because this one was really, really rough and just was tough to research, even though I already knew literally everything about it. But yeah, we appreciate it. We really appreciate it if you've made it all the way to the end of this. And we just hope you have a good rest of your week, and we will see all of you guys next Sunday.
Bye.